country needs us. And we need people like George Soros, who is fearless and willing to step up when it counts.
Now, to be fair, that soundbite is dated, but the Clinton campaign is accepting money from Soros this year, as stated, and that may present a problem for the secretary. You may remember that Donald Trump got hammered by the media for not disavowing David Duke quickly.
Yeah, and she taking money from the New World Order, an overseas fucking Nazi collaborator. Tell him, O'Reilly.
Bent on harming Israel, America's strongest ally in the Middle East. So how will the media cover that? Again, Soros, one of the biggest donors to the Democratic Party. Talking Points believes the mainstream press will largely ignore the Soros story, even though it's very important. Does the Democratic Party advocate open borders worldwide? A situation that would make it easy for Islamic terrorists to kill at will anywhere? Does the Democratic Party support the enemies of Israel? Do Jewish voters even know what's happening? Again, a major situation brought to you by Russian hackers and presented to a largely apathetic press when it comes to reporting the truth about the upcoming election. Summing up, the Democratic Party must comment on George Soros and his activities. We've requested a statement from the DNC, and we will let you know tomorrow if they reply. And that's a memo. Now for the top story.
Yep, and this whole memo was pretty much focusing on the motherfucker that helped the Nazis back in the day. If you don't believe me, look it up. Ask your daddy Google for you non-subscribers. And if you ain't gonna ever subscribe, check that out. But you know what? You should subscribe to the channel, because I love everybody except the Democratic Party and, you know, politicians. So, you know, but I love my American people. Trust and believe. Asians, Hindus, Arabics, Americans, black, white, pinky, greeny, bluey, pinky dinky, inky winky, Furbies. You know, I love my American products. I just hate shit made in China.
Why Soros would single you out when your organization
and here's a test
exposing
for you guys. Go to your local Family Dollar and Dollar General, and you put $10 down as a bet, as a little family bet, little wager, and see who can find the most made in American products.
Look, this is violent extremism. It has no relationship whatsoever
I just said
to
it.
Islam. You can't even talk about that.
Go do that little family little ordeal by yourself. Do it by yourself. Just go on your local Family Dollar, Dollar General, any one of them, Dollar Tree, where the hell you got,
it's very edifying, it's very
and
entertaining. But what they want to do when they call you an Islamophobe,
see how many American products you can find, and then tell me if Donald Trump crazy.
A bigot, a racist, and all that. But why does he want to shut you down? Is George Soros loony enough to think that an open border world, a borderless world, where ISIS could move wherever they want with any problem, is a safe world? Is a good thing? Is he that crazy?
Apparently, there's even evidence to show that he looks upon the refugee crisis in Europe, and it's a terrible crisis, as an opportunity for him to further his ideas and his policies. And as you pointed out, in a Middle East that is melting down, where you have genocide taking place among Christian, Yazidi, and other communities, what he's doing is targeting the one open society in the whole region, and that's Israel. And it's particularly ironic that as he's pursuing what is a kind of McCarthyism, he is the founder of the Open Societies Foundation. How does an Open Society Foundation try to shut down debate, try to demonize and delegitimize Israel, and try to do all the kinds of things it's doing, like taking advantage of the refugee crisis?
I think it's safe to say that by taking $13 million from George Soros, the Democratic Party has some explaining to do. Do they not?
Look, imagine if the Koch brothers, I don't know them, and that if they tried to demonize groups on the right, groups on the left, because they were too soft on the Muslim Brotherhood. This would be a big story, it seems to me, in the liberal press. Why isn't it, as you suggest, why isn't this a story, except in conservative media, that you have George Soros pursuing these things? And yes, it is something that should be considered, since he is a huge supporter of all these left-wing causes, and yes, of Democrats.
Well, he's the second biggest donor, I believe, at this point for the Democratic Party this election cycle. Yet, as you pointed out, and we're not a conservative show, as you know, Mr. May. I mean, this is a really interesting story. I mean, how an American billionaire can pay people hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to attack you and other people who object to Islamic terrorism.
Okay, Google.
I mean, that's the crux of the story.
Who is George Soros?
And then that very same person involved in that
Okay,
and
Google, who is
delegitimizing
George
Israel
Soros?
is one of the biggest funders of the Democratic Party.
According to Wikipedia,
That's huge.
George Soros
That's
is a
huge
Hungarian-American
story.
business
That
magnate,
would be
investor,
like the Klan
philanthropist,
coming up with
political
money and
activist, and
pumping it
author who is of
into
Hungarian Jewish
the
ancestry and holds
Republican
dual
Party.
citizenship.
I mean, think about it. The Klan, a racist crew, all right, who wants to put Jews and blacks and minorities
Okay,
in a
Google,
bad position.
what is
okay?
George Soros'
and
net
it's
worth?
horrifying what they do, all right? As opposed to
George
Soros,
Soros' net
a
worth
far
is
left crank who wants to
$24,900,000,000
harm Israel
United States
and
dollars.
wants to shut you up. I mean, I don't understand the big difference between Soros and David Duke.
Okay,
Do you?
Google, what does George
I
Soros
don't, and I
use
think that
most of his
members
money
of the
for?
more liberal and more
Financing.
progressive press ought to be answering why this isn't newsworthy, why only certain things are newsworthy, and why somebody far to the left and further to the left than they are, why they won't investigate,
Google,
report,
what
cover,
does George
and
Soros
talk
use
about
his
these
money
things.
Where is it?
to
And
finance?
where is it?
Where
I don't
is the
think you're going to
story?
see it in tomorrow's papers.
Now, to be fair, we looked for connections between Soros and President Obama. We did not find any. In fact, the two had a falling out.
Okay,
sometime.
Google,
But
how
Hillary
much
Clinton,
money has
you know,
George Soros
she's
gave
$7
Hillary
million
Clinton?
bucks already into her campaign from Soros. So again, we need to get to the bottom of this. And Mr. Mayor, we appreciate you coming on this evening.
Glad.
Next on the rundown, a Democrat will reply to our investigation. Then later, President Obama orders more accused terrorists released from Guantanamo Bay. Some of them very dangerous. Also, Black Lives Matter demonstrating at Graceland, home of Elvis Presley. Why? Those reports after these messages.
Clean food. Words Panera lives by. No artificial flavors, preservatives, sweeteners, no colors from artificial sources. 100% of our food will be clean by year's end. That's food as it should be.
Meet Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Debbie. Matthew and Mark are taught by some of the country's best professors. So are Luke and Debbie. They attend one of the largest nonprofit universities in the country. And whether at home or abroad, they're educated by the same professors as Matthew and Mark.
All right. This is from Bloomberg News. Soros, alarmed by Trump, pours money into 2016 race. Billionaire has already spent or pledged $13 million to help Hillary Clinton and other Democrats this year. Video.
When it comes to healthcare, seconds can be the difference between life and death.
For Partners in Health, time is life. We have 18,000 people around the world. The Microsoft Cloud helps our entire staff stay connected and work together in real time to help those that need it.
The ability to collaborate changes how we work. What we do together changes how we live.
Even yesterday, Elizabeth Warren chiming in sort of in this anti-Trump movement, saying how dangerous Mr. Trump could be to the American people.
I mean, if you did a focus group of leading politicians in both parties, you wouldn't be able to tell the Democrats from the Republicans right now regarding their attitude towards Donald Trump. But that doesn't really speak to the question of whether he'll be the Republican nominee or not, because he still has a huge advantage. And you can play out 1,000 scenarios. Almost all of them end with Donald Trump as the Republican nominee.
How different is that than in previous elections? As you just said, you could take political leaders across the board, and they all seem to be anti-Trump, but that's the opposite of what voters are doing.
Well, the biggest difference, it cuts the other way, which is if Donald Trump were a normal Republican frontrunner, you'd see every member of Congress endorsing him, every governor, pressure on everyone else to get out of the race. Instead, starting tomorrow, after whatever Trump does super well tonight or somewhat well tonight, starting tomorrow morning, you will see efforts not to get on board with him, although there'll be some of that, but rather to figure out what's the best way remaining, if there is. It's easy to see a scenario where Trump is held below 50 and then figure out how to stop him at the convention. That's what Jim Baker would do.
John, you actually wrote a book on America.
Some of the things coming out, and it makes people uncomfortable. But I'm not sure you can blame George Soros or Hillary Clinton for the fact that we live in a political system that allows money to be spent in this way.
You're deflecting the issue. So what you're saying is Mussolini made the Italian trains run on time, so you have to give him credit, even though he was a fascist.
I am half Italian, so I'm not going to respond to
But
that.
that argument doesn't hold weight, because what we're dealing with now is we're dealing with a man who we now know provided hundreds of thousands of dollars to discredit Americans like Cliff May and Liz Cheney, who were simply trying to protect the country against Islamic terrorism, number one. Number two, has donated millions of dollars to try to run down Israel. All right? So now, how as a Democrat do you process those two facts?
You know, if you look at the foundation, it is $13 billion in 33 years. That is an awful lot of money. It has gone an awful lot of places. When you're dealing with that amount of money, yes, it's going to go places that make certain people uncomfortable.
But this is a Soros directed. This is his philosophy.
Absolutely.
Now, the Democratic Party is accepting his money.
Absolutely. Right? As the Republican Party would as well.
Let's keep it with the Democrats, Doctor, with all due respect. All right? They're accepting the money.
Put her in a fucking place,
O'Reilly.
O'Reilly.
Have an obligation to explain whether they support Soros's vision of open borders everywhere in the United States, his vision of denigrating Israel to the Democratic Party. Does the Democratic Party, Donna Brazile as the head, have an obligation to explain that to you, a Democrat?
I think they absolutely have to be transparent about where that money is coming from and what it is directed to. I absolutely agree with that.
Well, we know where it's coming from and where it was directed to. Do they have to explain why they're accepting it?
I don't think the argument that the Democratic Party is anti-Israel is going to hold any water. So, I do believe in transparency. If they are accepting money, which they are, they need to say where it's coming from and where it's going. And if you want that money regulated, it would be incumbent on all of us to get together, which I firmly believe, and regulate that money.
Well, look,
but
that's a whole different debate.
But it's not a whole different
debate. Yes, it is,
because if it's not regulated, how do you control
this
the
investigation is very personal. It's not a policy investigation. Here's a man giving an enormous amount of money to the Democrats, who believes that we should not protect ourselves at all and allow anyone in the world in here at any time. That's flat out dangerous. And is a man who's funding anti-Israel people to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. That's personal. And I'm surprised as a Democrat that you don't take it personally.
I do take it.
It puts you, your family, and every Jew in Israel in danger.
I do take it personally, but here is also a man who has funded women's issues, equal rights,
back to the trains on time again.
But listen, there is a point to be made. If that money is not going in a place that the Democratic Party is comfortable with, then yes, it should be discussed by Democrats. But that is not all the money, and that's not where all the money is going to.
Nobody is saying it's all the money. You can give money to poor children and still be a villain. And still be a villain.
Absolutely, but I don't think that George Soros qualifies as a villain.
You don't?
No, and I would like to see the evidence that suggests that he does. You show me that evidence.
You just heard Cliff May, an American citizen.
And I respect Cliff.
He's trying to destroy
to the
because
world
of his
is
free
George
speech
Soros a villain?
opinion that the jihadists are bad for America.
I am not in favor
That's
of
not a bad thing.
I am
Come
not
on.
in favor of destroying Cliff May or anybody
Well, that's
else.
what Soros is doing.
But this is not what the Democrats are responsible for. What are they responsible for? If they are getting donations, they're responsible for being transparent about where they're coming from and what they're
and explaining
targeted to.
why they're accepting them.
And where the money is going, Bill. Where is the money going? It is not going to discredit
Again,
Cliff
if
May.
this were the opposite, if some guy, some kooky far-right person was giving this kind of money to the Republicans, this would be page one in every newspaper, and CNN would lead with it 24/7.
I would say the same thing. But you know what? In terms of the media, it's after ratings. It's not after that.
Directly ahead, President Obama releasing 15 more accused terrorists from Guantanamo. We'll have the inside story there. And Black Lives Matter, Elvis, and a demonstration. What? Up ahead.
Oh, heartburn.
Sorry, ma'am, no burning here. Try new Alka-Seltzer Heartburn Relief Gummies. They don't taste chalky and work fast.
Guys, you're gonna have to pause that shit. I can't hold this shit because my ribs are all broken and shit.
Joy and relief.
You focus on making great burgers, or building the best houses in town, or becoming the next highly unlikely.com superstar. And us, we'll be right there with you.
Alright guys, there's a video that comes with this shit. Can you see that shit? It says George Soros funds Ferguson protests in hopes to spur civil unrest.